Hi. Hi, Raghav. So Sandeep is just joining us in a few minutes. So we're just waiting for Sandeep to join and then we'll start this interesting discussion about abstract art. So I'm sure you've heard of a lot of artists who have worked amazingly in abstract art. And if you have any questions or if you have anything that you would like to ask us about Cobalt Blue, about art of seeing, about everything that we've been doing so far in terms of art, please feel free to ask us. Do write to us in case you want to know something about abstract art. Today's artist in focus is, of course, Mark Rothko, which will be coming towards the end of the talk. And we'll make a very interesting connection with Guy Thwande, who is one of the Indian artists and who's done tremendously well in the international scene, and how both the works are pretty similar, but the philosophies that they derive from are very different. Hi, Eric. So Eric is here, Raghav is here, Kavita is here, Dhamija Vijay is here, Digital Parul Hub is here. Hi everyone. We're just waiting. Sandeep is a little late, but we're waiting for him. So how it was? How was everybody's Diwali? Yeah, so Sandeep is also here. Hi Sandeep.
Hello, hi, how are you?
I'm good. So Eric, Raghav, a lot of people are here, and we've been waiting for you.
Oh, wonderful.
Gallery Threshold just joined us.
Is the voice clear?
It's pretty clear, yes.
Okay. So, all right. So, welcome everyone for Friday night art of seeing with me and Ruchi. On first time we are doing this on Instagram. So it's a test module. So hopefully, if we don't know how this works, but hopefully we'll be able to see
Yeah,
through
I
this.
hope the Instagram gods are, kind to us.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay.
So, yes.
All right. So, hello, hi, Damji. Okay. So tonight we are going to talk about the art of seeing. Today is about the movement of art that happened during the early 20th century, and it's called abstract art, and particularly the leading figure of that art movement, who was Mark Rothko, an American painter with a Jewish background from Russia, is our artist of the discussion tonight. And we will be talking about the work of Mark Rothko, and one of the pioneering Indian artists who is also would be part of our discussion tonight. Ruchi?
yes. Towards the end, of course, we will be
Yeah, I'm
discussing
just
that.
having some
But
hot
what
tea
I
as well,
first, of course, I've got some too. Cheers.
Wonderful. Cheers. Cheers.
So, okay. So, before we jump right into the discussion, I want to quickly discuss what the philosophy of art of seeing was, and let's warm up everybody with what we talk about in art of seeing, because of course it's one of our very important programs.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, you want to talk about art of seeing, Ruchi?
So, art of seeing was a very different discovery, because we realized that people go to the museums, and the first question is they ask everyone is that we don't understand art. And we wanted to make this very beautiful capsule of information and the pointers that people could take with them and start looking at everything as a piece of art. And that's how this program, Art of Seeing, originated. We did a lot of walks at NGMA, Piramal. We did for Kiran Nadar Museum in this category of Art of Seeing. And we give these beautiful pointers and on how to see art. And Sandeep, I would like you to jump right into it and discuss the few pointers that we need to know when we start looking at art as a piece of art.
So a lot of people have this question that, especially in the areas of abstract art, that what is there inside that, and how do we look at it, and how do we make sense of it? The other question that keeps coming a lot of time to us is, what is the artist trying to portray or trying to say through his painting? And the the idea behind abstract art, and is sometimes is also called pure art, was developed slowly over the period of many centuries. So the beginning of the art. People used to draw reality the way it is before the invention of the camera and photography, and the better you are depicting the reality, the greater you are an artist. Renaissance period and all that, before that, the realism and all that contributed in creating that part. But later on, people began to deform the reality and begin to move towards a movement called surrealism, which was mostly inspired by the concept of late 19th century and the discussions of Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud about subconscious mind. And instead of looking outside at the reality, artists begin to look within and inside themselves, and they wanted to portray what is inside them.
So I think there's a very beautiful thing which this surrealism movement between complete abstract and the realism is that it kind of combines both the things very beautifully. It's kind of abstract, but still has the essence of the realism in it, So it's like a bridging movement between
it was
these
a
two
bridging
things.
movement of that, and then
Yes.
obviously from there the discontent with trying to be perfect to realism seeped into a lot of artist groups, and they begin to experiment with the concepts in the form of cubism, surrealism, and early abstract art that began their movement in Europe and America. And but so finally came abstract art, which then broke open in the late 30s and early 20s and late 30s, and all the way carried forward to 70s and 80s. That movement challenged the perception of people about art. It challenged them about reality, and it also wanted to communicate with them the ideas that you cannot see from your eyes, the ideas that are abstract within our mind, like emotions. They wanted to display that through their paintings, and that movement did that. So how do you look at an abstract art? What is there to look in the abstract art? There are three ways of doing that, and the first thing that we generally say, that as you approach a painting in a museum or any other place or space where you encounter is to
Look.
look. Okay, I hope you can see it. It's a bit bright, but the idea is to look. The first thing is to look, and what to look for in that painting, right? So what you look for is you look for color, the
Physical
colors that are
attributes.
prominent, the physical attributes of the painting, the form, the medium, the materials and textures, techniques, and the subject of the painting. That is the superficiality of it, the first layer of looking at the painting. Okay, so if you approach a painting, for example, you look at a painting like this. Okay, and when you look at a painting like that, what do you see in it?
So it's right now I can see that it's some sort of watercolor. Plus I see the colors in it.
Yeah.
Purple and the yellow, and then this mix of very interesting brown that has been made here.
Right.
And it looks like it's made upon paper. From where I'm sitting, I can see that it looks like paper. So maybe it's not. It looks like paper right now.
So it's one of the earliest work of Mark Rothko. It's painted on a canvas. Obviously, right now we are displaying it on a digital device, so you cannot really experience the medium. But the colors is the first thing that you can look at. The forms is the second thing that you can look at, and the forms which are there. You see a square, for example. Here you see these kind of wobbly shapes which is there, and their distance from each other create sort of a sense of proximity in this art piece. To some people, it might look like a shape of a human being with the head, hair, and body hair. To some people, it might look like a traffic jam. Maybe this is the traffic signal. These are small cars, and he is sitting in his own car like that. So you can interpret it the way you want it, but that's the first thing you observe about it, right? Now, what is the second thing that you look when you look at a painting is, so you look at, so look is the first thing. Second thing is what we call see, okay?
See.
And what do you see in a painting? You see these things in a painting, right? I don't know if they're coming inverted or can you
they're coming inverted. So it's okay, but you can
I'll read
them
for
now.
that. What you see in a painting is you see symbols. Okay, so that is beyond what you saw in that earlier painting. You saw the form and the shape and the color. The second thing that you look at is for symbols in the painting. You look for an association of those symbols, the meaning, those symbols, not what the artist is trying to say, but what do they have for you, the meaning of the symbols for you. And third is the context of the painting. In what context the painting is right now, was made, what was the social time that was going on, what was the personal life story of the artist that was going on. So you might like to do a little research before you go into the painting. And if you don't know about the artist, that's okay. You can just still continue, looking at the painting and keep finding symbols and association of those paintings in that. So going back to our earlier painting, for example, this one, right? Now, the first thing you noticed were the colors. Then you noticed the shapes which were there, the squares and all that. But then finally, you might like to look for some symbols in them. So maybe you might like to look at some shape like that. Some stuff like that. And what does that mean to you personally? Not what the artist is trying to say. What does it mean to you? And those are the symbols that you might like to look for and associate your own interpretations with them in this painting. This is one of the earliest work of Mark Rothko. He is not popular for this style. His style is the style he got popular for later on in his life is called the color blotting and multiform, that we will come to in a while and show you some of his late work that made him very famous all across the world. Now, once you have seen the two things of it, you have looked at the painting, you have seen the painting, seen the symbols and all that, is the third part, which is the toughest part, but also the most rewarding, is think. Okay? So in third part, you might like to think about the painting. What do you like to think about the painting? So you might like to know the story of the work a little bit. Some people, there could be somebody who can tell you now you have access to internet. So you might like to understand what is the story behind this painting. That could provide you deep insight into the genesis of the idea or the concept? Is it a reflection of the society of that time? Is it a reflection of a artist's personal life, maybe his pain and his sorrow or his happiness, and maybe does it resonate the same emotions in you as well? And then eventually you personalize that painting, going through this process of look, see, and think. You personalize the painting. Finally, you say, okay, this painting belongs to me, because it speaks my heart out. It speaks my current state of my life. You might be happy at your life right now. You might be confused. You might be depressed, and you might like to look at that painting and see the layers of thoughts and emotions that's hidden within it. And it might feel to you that, oh, it's a outward reflection of your own inner state, because emotions are very abstract, so the paintings can reflect that. Coming to that part, coming back to the painting again, now look, we have done, see, we have done, now thinking part. What is the emotion that this painting evoke when you look at it? What does it make you feel?
Anybody from the people who are watching it would like to answer it? What do you experience while you see this painting?
Or maybe let me make it a little easier. What is the one word that comes to your mind when you look at this painting?
So I see a man with a broad shoulder and a chest, and
Okay,
wearing some sort of...
Look part, very good. What do you think? What is the emotion that comes to you when you look at this painting?
So it's a very disturbing emotion. It's not a very happy emotion, This man looks very distorted. Yet Raghav says he feels meditative when he sees this painting, which is amazing, which is a very different perspective, because I found it a little disturbing. But that's the beauty of art, and abstract art especially, that it's about projecting your own feelings.
Yeah. So this the dynamism in the painting, the elements seem to be floating in the space and not resting at one point. Could make you feel that it's a disturbing painting. At the same time, other person can feel this as a pattern of rhythmic flow of elements, and it could feel meditative to them as well. So this was one of the earliest work of Mark Rothko that he did at the beginning of his career. He was born in Russia during the Russian Empire in a country called Latvia, which is now separated from Russia, and he was a Jewish. So later in his stage, when World War II happened, it had a great impact on his thinking and his work at that time. But at the beginning of his life, he was there, and his father was actually anti-religious, and he pushed him and his family members and his children to study and read stuff which is more political in nature and not religious in nature. But by the turn of event and later in their life, the father turned back to his religion for some reason, and Mark Rothko, being the youngest in the family, so earlier kids and siblings went to school and they studied different subjects. He was sent to a Jewish school to study, the rabbi's philosophy of religion and all that, and his father's change of heart, and then finally he remained in that school for a long time. About 1990s, his father, 1919, about that time, his father decided to move to America with his family, and then Mark Rothko and all his brothers and sisters, they moved to America. And after coming to America, within 6 months, his father died of colon cancer. And then after the death of his father, he immediately stopped studying religion and being part of it. And he joined a political movement in America, in Portland, where they shifted. And he became an activist. And his dream was to become the leader of this working class group, and all that kind of stuff was going on in his life. But when he was about in his early 20s, he visited New York, and there a chance meeting to an artist group, he saw them sketching something, and that developed his interest in art, and he thought that art could be a great medium to express his emotions and his feelings. And he joined Parsons School of Design to study art. The two teachers who taught him at the beginning were pioneers in abstract art themselves, and they had a great influence on him in moving into the direction of abstract art. And like every artist, he began sketching at first the reality and the figures, of figurative paintings before finally transforming and transcending into the abstract art. So one of his earliest work would be something like this, okay? And
That's very interesting.
He painted, like, as you can see, this is a boy. He painted figurines and reality the way it is. But later he began to get a little bit more surrealistic in his work. And as you can see that then this is what developed into his art form over the period of time. And you can clearly see the influence of surrealistic movement in him,
Surrealism, yes.
because by that time he began to study Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, and you see the effect of their thinking in his work.
That's so interesting, an artist who combined psychology and the studies that were happening in psychology parallelly into his work, and he brought them to the canvas. That's very interesting.
So there's a very famous saying that artist is actually a reflector of society and what's happening around him, and that's why it is very important for an artist to not be in solitude, but be in constant touch with the world around him, read, study new thinking and new thought processes, because that will keep him right at the edge of developing his work and making it more disruptive as compared to other people. Mark Rothko's work that finally made him famous happened at a very late stage, but a lot happened in his life before he finally reached that. So, for example, he married one of the jewelry designer during his time of becoming an artist, and later on he went through a separation with her, and that's put him in depression. And his work suffered, but also transformed into a different style altogether. And then later on, he finally, him and his wife separated, and that had a deep impact on him. And he wanted to search for meaning of the pain that he suffered in his life. So if you see the pattern of his life, he had a very disturbing childhood. A father who was very rigid, but later on he transformed, and so it must be very confusing for him to understand whether he was studying religion or whether he was studying politics and all that. Then he joined the political movement, so you can see his frustration with the system and the authorities that he was experiencing during that time. Then he moved into art, got married, then got separated, and it seems that he was quite sensitive about that experience, and that put him in depression. So he began to question that what is the source of this pain, and how does a modern man, with the lack of religious support, because he did not believe in religion from the very early stage, his conditioning was like that, so there was no religious faith to calm him down. He began to search for a meaning that could fill that vacuum in his life, and he finally then ended up studying mythology and connected Carl Jung's studies of myths and symbols into his work, and from which finally came out his next series of work, which was based on mythologies, demons and gods and all that. And in his own words, he compared his work with the work of mythological writing and earlier paintings of churches and all that, saying that the gods and demons are all lurking around us all the time in the form of communism and fascism and all that. And my work reflects of a modern man's study, a reflection of mythological, happening from the perspective of mythology, the society that's happening. And that suddenly gave him meaning. And for a very long time, he continued his work based on mythology and mythological symbols.
So, Sundeep, one very interesting thing that I've been thinking about is because we're talking about Mark Rothko, and very interesting thing that he was very rigid about how his work was supposed to be displayed,
Yeah.
Uh, in fact, all his paintings, he has left instructions as in how they would be displayed, And he was so rigid and he was so away from capitalism that Four Seasons Hotel actually gave him commissioned him few works for the hotel.
Yeah.
And after he finished the work, he suddenly decided that I don't want to sell them, and he donated all the paintings to Tate Modern,
68
which was
paintings he made
fascinating
for them.
because he was an artist who was fighting against capitalism, and he was defying the things that made the society, and that was very amazing about him.
Yeah.
So it's not just
So that shows his development at the early stage of this political activism that he had against the establishment. But this particular case of Four Seasons Hotels actually remained for a very long time in his life. A lot of people kept asking him that why did you choose not to send your paintings there, because the Four Seasons Hotels has already explained to him that it's a luxury hotel and it's for elite people, and your paintings would be displayed here for that kind of a crowd. So he was aware of it. But one of his friends explains this story in a very interesting form. He says that it was his personal drama that he built in his head of first accepting something like this capitalistic commercial work, and later denying it, and thus creating a drama within his own head that okay, so this is a dramatic situation that he created.
And also, he was suffering from anxiety and depression at the same time, and he was like going through a lot of psychological stuff himself.
Yeah. So these kind of behavior decisions reflect that the probably disturbing phase of his life that he was going through. And anyway, it costed him commercially also, but a lot of his work that could have reached to a lot of people remained locked up for a very long time. He was actually at the later stage against even displaying his work at art galleries.
Yeah.
And he said that I don't want to display my work at art galleries because, I don't want them to be violated by these people who come and comment on them and all that. And he seemed to be very sensitive about criticism on his work. And being this orator and political activist, he always responded back and always reacted to criticism. And I might feel that he was very sensitive to criticism, and that's why he stopped his work being in public place to be criticized by people.
So Sundeep, going back to the discussion where we started and the point where we actually started from, and because we discussed Mark Rothko in such a detail, I want you to discuss with me a little bit about abstract art and how in the beginning of abstract art movement, it was called pure art, because for the first time, everybody saw that the artists were actually expressing what they felt rather than actually copying something from the real life, and just discuss a bit about art, abstract art, that how it is amazing, for the brain.
So abstract art is something which is a direct reflection of the inner world of the artist. That's what artists want to project. Not inner world in the sense that his subconscious mind, which is also part of it, but also how he sees the world outside, not for what it is, but how he as an individual sees that. So an abstract artist might look at a tree, and he might just paint the tree as a circle and a stick. Or he might create a lot of triangles in the form of leaves on it, and he might believe that that's my abstract art. That's how I see reality. And as an abstract artist, that's his interpretation. So this individualism in art, the concept that I, as a person, my brain is unique, and so should be my work, released and calm down artist when he made his painting, and it was very therapeutic as well. So if you look at art therapy to this thing, it also relies a lot on abstract art as a reflection of reality.
So continuing the discussion that you are talking about realism to abstractism, I feel that a lot of realistic work is a projection, that the artist projects on you, because, of course, it's like something that is already there. There are deep emotions and a lot of stuff to see there also. But perception, the whole point of perception and creative juices flowing, and, you actually developing an idea, a creative idea after looking at a piece of art only comes through abstract art.
That's true.
And
And
that's
yeah.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying, that the perception, the creative flow of juices comes from abstract art. Do you agree, Sandeep, with this?
So creative flow of juices is definitely comes from every form of art, but the personal reflection in art, the expression of your inner world, and your ways of looking at world. Abstract art form is a great form to sort of make sense of reality, because reality is not all what it seems. Reality is actually very abstract, and abstract art actually, in my opinion, explains reality in its best form.
So interestingly, like now I'm like jumping back and forth, and I want to discuss one very amazing artist from India, Gaithwandi, and
Yeah.
I want to draw some parallels between Mark Rothko and Gaithwandi, because whenever you see the artwork hanging at the NGMA, you get these beautiful vibes of Mark Rothko's work, and which is amazing,
Yeah.
because see, he was working here and much later than Rothko's work. So could it be
Yeah.
influenced somewhere? Could he be influenced by his work?
Well, I don't know. It's for the people to see, but let's see. So this is the work of V.S. Gaithwandi. Okay, this is one of
Yeah,
his
yeah.
work, which is there, and then this is a work of Mark Rothko. Okay, right? They do belong to the same family of form. You can look at them, and you might feel that they are from the same school of thought.
Yeah.
Gaitonde never personally. I don't know if he really mentioned that he's inspired by Mark Rothko, but his
No.
work does reflect a lot of. Maybe two people begin to think about ideas at different timeline, the same idea, and they develop their original style.
Yeah.
But the philosophy of abstract art of both the artists is very similar. So
Yeah.
Mark Rothko also talked about looking within himself, and he wanted to look at the pain and emotional side of the human existence. And Gaitonde also wanted to have an inner journey, and he wanted to look at the silence of the soul and the spiritualism of. So he probably was inspired from Indian philosophies of meditation and all that. So he made his work very meditative, and he wanted to inculcate the same emotion in the audience and the visitor of his work as well. So there is a lot of similarities in their philosophies, which is reflected in their work.
I would point out a difference, and I read it somewhere that Gaitonde wanted you to feel at peace, or wanted you to experience the silence and the meditative state. Whereas Mark Rothko, in his own words, has said that I don't want you to be at peace, I want you to experience sorrow. I want you to experience anxiety. I want you to experience very depressive thoughts when you look at my work, because art is not just all sugar and spice, all things nice. It's the pain. He wanted to project, and that's his own words. And that's fascinating, because that's where the philosophy of both the artists would kind of differ somewhere.
Collide and differ from each other. Yes, but so Mark Rothko said that
Still there are parallels. That still it's very yeah.
Yeah, Mark Rothko said that he want people to cry when they look at his work, and a lot of people, said that they cried looking at his work and all that, and it seems that he was very delighted with that concept, and he wanted to. He said that I want people to experience exactly what I experienced while making the paintings, but he also. So interestingly, there's an interesting anecdote that Mark Rothko used to make these very simple paintings on a very large scale, and people said that so some of his critics, they said that you are enlarging your painting just to give them a sense of proportion and all that. And it's a very simple painting. You're just painting two blocks. You could make them in a very smaller thing. So he said that the experience of human emotion is immersive. It's not from a distance. When you reduce the size of your work, you see it from a distance, and it becomes like an external experience. I want people to walk into my painting and be immersed by it. So as you were saying earlier that he wrote the instructions about how to display his work, he also wrote the instructions how to experience his work. And he said that 18 inches is a good distance from my painting to look at them.
How fascinating is that you leave a manual to, how to operate my artwork, how to display my artwork,
and how to see it.
How to see it. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But
he never explained his work so deeply, though he was I think it seems that he spoke a lot about his work, but he never explained his work. So at the later stage of his life, he began to get very tired of all these mails coming to him and asking him to explain his work. So he said that my squares, the two squares that I paint, they are eternally expanding outside and inside. And between the two extreme points of this expansion, the line that is there is the explanation of my work. So,
wow. It's like he answers everything,
So, an abstract artist can give only abstract answer, so it's all
have you experienced Mark Rothko's work in reality somewhere? Ever?
I have experienced it. When I was in London, I have seen his painting of Mark Rothko, and it's, it seems easy that you look at it and you say, it's just two blocks of squares. Anybody can do it. My child can do it, and all that. Try it. It's very difficult. You can't. You won't be able to achieve an individual thing. And always remember, he did it when nobody else did it before. You're doing it when somebody else has done it. So still, it will be very difficult to do it.
And
but it's an individual language that you developed.
And also, we feel that it's very easy to get those strokes on the canvas with your thoughts and everything, but it is not, In fact, copying an abstract art would be much more difficult than copying a realistic work,
Absolutely, yeah. It's like copying somebody's emotions, You can't do that in real life.
Yeah.
Especially when you're living in today's time, which is so apathic, people have very less empathy towards each other. So copying artworks. Now, this is something that obviously you might say, yes, I can paint it. It's just three lines of colors, but it's not that easy, because you can see that there is a glow of blue reflecting through the reds here, the browns here. You see that kind of a glowing feel which is there, and it's something which only can come to you with a lot of sensitivity towards color and color palette as well. So that's what.
And also emotions.
And also emotions.
So I think So towards the closing of this discussion, I think it was rightly said that it is pure art. Abstract art was called pure art, and that is amazing.
Yeah, and you must experience abstract art, and we recommend you do it in reality, not on digital surface. It does not justify the experience of it, because as we mentioned at the beginning of the program, look, see and think are 3 steps of experiencing art. And if you go to an art museum, go to National Gallery of Modern Art in Delhi. They have great collection of abstract art by Gaitwande and many more, Raza and Souza and all that you can see. And you will be able to, and try to apply these methods and concepts and tools that we have told you today to experience an abstract art. Yeah.
And also these can be applied to anything in your life, and you'll realize that how much information and how much understanding of an object you can derive out of it, once you start looking at something, seeing something, and then thinking about it. These 3 steps makes everything a piece of art. That's what we always say, that anything becomes a piece of art when you use these methods,
Absolutely. So, but first you have to train your mind, and museums are a very safe place to train your mind, to look at reality from a different perspective, and you'll realize that there is no reality. It is what you see. is the reality, and which means what other person sees is also reality. So the point of disagreement will be reduced, and hopefully you will have a much more peaceful life.
All right, Sandeep. Awesome
All right.
discussion.
Yeah, Ruchi, wonderful. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight.
Thank you for
And
joining us. And we will be posting this video so that everybody can view it later in case they want to. They miss the discussion because it's what's a tight time, probably having dinner and stuff, people. But of course, we'll be posting this video and we will be doing this very regularly, Sandeep. And
soon we'll be announcing our next artist in focus for our next art night with Sundeep and Ruchi.
And also Sandeep, I want to get mythology one day and maybe a few concepts of storytelling one day, a little master class in storytelling.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we will cover all those subjects in the coming future. And hopefully we will see you all again joining us for these live sessions.
All right. See ya.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Happy Cobalting.
Happy Cobalting. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.